Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio. Discover your spiritual gifts live.
Welcome to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts show number 74. This is your host, Dave. Violet will be back on the next show. Our guest today is Guy Finley. Best-selling Letting Go author Guy Finley's encouraging and accessible message is one of the true bright lights in our world today. His ideas cut straight to the heart of our most important personal and social issues: relationships, success, addiction, stress, peace, happiness, freedom, and lead the way to a higher life. Finley is the founder and director of Life of Learning Foundation, a nonprofit center for spiritual discovery. He is the acclaimed author of The Secret of Letting Go and more than 45 other books and audio programs that have sold over 2 million copies in 26 languages worldwide. His work is widely endorsed by doctors, business professionals, celebrities, and religious leaders of all denominations. Through Life of Learning, Guy has presented over 5,000 unique self-realization seminars to thousands of grateful students throughout North America and Europe over the past 20 years, and has been a guest of over 700 television and radio shows. Guy's career reached this point through a circuitous path. Born into a successful show business family, he is the son of late-night TV and radio pioneer Larry Finley. His childhood friends were the sons and daughters of the most famous celebrities in the world. Throughout his youth, Guy suspected there was more to life than the type of worldly success that led to the emptiness and frustration he saw among his own successful friends and colleagues. In 1979, after travels throughout North America, India, and the Far East in search of truth and higher wisdom, Guy voluntarily retired from his flourishing musical career in order to simplify his life and to concentrate on deeper self-studies. In addition to his writing and appearance schedule, Guy speaks 2 times each week on inner life principles at Life of Learning's home in Merlin, Oregon. So welcome, Guy. Thank you for being on our show. We appreciate you being here today.
Thanks, Dave. I'm glad to be with you.
So tell us a little bit more about your background. When you're off on your mystical journey, what were you learning? What did you dig into? What did you delve into?
Dave, God, I can really take credit for absolutely nothing that I've done in my life. Whatever it is that happens, we find ourselves in places and experiencing parts of ourselves and trying as best we can, given what we are conditioned to deal with, and usually find ourselves coming back to the same place of some kind of dissatisfaction again and again and again. And I had just reached a point where most people would think, how could you want more than this? I had a house in Malibu with horses, a tennis court. I was a successful composer, a rising whatever in the world of music, and I was as unhappy as a human being could be. Mm-hmm. And I followed that road all the way to that point, believing, well, this is where you wanted to go. And then I'm sitting there at home, banging my head on my piano, trying to figure out what's wrong with me because this isn't doing it. And it was at that point that everything got serious for me, Dave. And I wanted to know what in the name of God was going on because, and I hope it's okay if I ramble for a moment to try to
please do.
Fill in a big picture here. From the time that I was 7 years old, maybe earlier than that, I knew something was wrong. I remember, and you'll be old enough to remember this, but most won't. I remember riding in the lap of Jane Mansfield in the Hollywood Christmas parade. My father was the honorary mayor of the parade in Hollywood. Uh-huh. And we had been in a green room and people were drinking, and you could feel that the fear was palpable. Everything was bugging me. And yet here I am driving along with and waving my hand like everybody else,
In the lap of luxury, right?
Yeah, quite literally. And I thought, I had no way of understanding what is this dysfunction? Why doesn't this marry? If everything's as good as it's going to get, why aren't people content? Why isn't there peace? Now, I couldn't measure this, Dave, any more than a shark could understand a star in those days. There's no way.
Yeah.
But the bottom line was all of this grew and fermented in me over the years. And then, without going into detail, some rather, in quotes, mystical experiences around the age of 12, 13, 14. And all of that adding to the grist to this mill. Then my career that didn't pan out. And I thought, well, this is not what I'm supposed to do. And I decided I was just going to go find out if there was anyone on the world. Of course, in those days, you'll know what I'm talking about. I was looking for somebody to give me a shakti pot, waiting for somebody to pop me open. And so that all this, I wouldn't have to do anything. I would just be the glorious person I thought I was supposed to be. And of course, none of that happens either. None of it's real. Not that you can't have certain mystical experiences. God knows I have. But that is not the essence of a change in character. And I wanted to understand what's the groundwork, what's required of a human being to become someone new and other than what he has dragged with him through his life. And that's the summation of my journey right there. And I'm still on it.
It sounds, it reminds me of something I read in a Joseph Campbell book where he said, be careful of the ladder that you're climbing to success, because when you get to the top, it may be against the wrong building.
That's exactly right. The way I say it is that when you're building that ladder of success, the problem is it always adds another rung to itself. So you have to keep climbing and climbing and climbing, like Sisyphus pushing that rock up the hill. There's no end to that nature seeking to complete itself through what it imagines has the capacity to do so. And it doesn't, but that's the journey.
Well, back in 1983, I was in my career with a master's in electrical engineering, working at Martin Marietta and aerospace, and doing what had always been my dream to be a successful electrical engineer. And I started finding dissatisfaction with it, that engineering had great mathematical models, but they weren't explanatory on the nature of the universe.
Right.
And about that time, I had an experience where I felt like the big hands of God came down and said, I'm going to give you a demonstration that you can't ignore. A friend of mine at a 10th high school reunion demonstrated that he could modify electronics through the power of his mind, big or small, it didn't matter. He always got an effect. He could stall cars in traffic. He could change marquee signs on hotels. It didn't matter. And I returned back to my house and I said, okay, there's a much bigger picture here that I have to study and I have to dig in. And that's when I got on my path. And I think somewhat like you, if in 1983, I would have looked forward to see the path that I ended up on with all of my mystical experiences, I would have run from the room screaming.
That's it.
But I can look back and I can see a very logical stepping stone path that was set up for me by spiritual beings and others that would keep me on the path, keep me interested, keep me challenged, and give me lots of opportunities. And I think that's true for most people who've been on these types of quests or paths.
Yeah, I'm like yourself. How should I say? Convinced isn't really the word. Being careful to use the word I know for a fact that at a certain point in a man or a woman's life, if they have this, what I call divine dissatisfaction, they're not the one who put it in themselves. And everything that it moves into us and through us has a purpose. And in this instance, it is to begin this process of finally separating the wheat from the chaff, getting rid of that which is never could have worked, but was required to be seen as such, so that it isn't like you're trying to discipline yourself. You're actually being disciplined. so that things are working on you to produce certain revelations that are, when received willingly, which is difficult,
Yeah.
set the tone, set the path. And one by one, step by step, there are governing powers, there's no question about it, of a higher order, just as there are lower orders,
Hmm.
that want you to know that you are not apart from themselves, and that if you're willing to look, learn, and allow the integration to take place as a result of the revelations you get, you enter into a direct relationship with another order of being.
Hmm.
And it turns out that that order of being that you enter into was already entered into you, and you're just realizing it now. you know, so you've gone this immense journey to go nowhere at all. And then people ask you, well, what did you do? And you have to say nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Hmm.
I have a saying that the gates of heaven, people have this illusion that there's these footprints walking in, but the truth is it's more like a limbo bar and you're dragged in, so it's heel marks that you see entering the gate, not upright footsteps. I can guarantee you that.
Hmm. Well, I have a lot of people approach me because of my spiritual practice, and they say, what is my life's purpose? What is my life's goal? And I always have to tell them, look, number one, I said, I don't believe anybody who is intuitive or spiritual gets 100% of the answer, because if you did, it would cut out people's need to be here, in life. There's got to be uncertainty. But I said, I frequently found when I ask spiritual beings about what are people's paths, I'm not allowed to see that because they want you to explore. They don't want me just to tell you you're supposed to be an accountant, so go be the best accountant you can be for the rest of your life and then retire and sit on the porch and be bored. I'm not going to do that to you. And I'm sure you hear a lot of the same thing from so many people that you're in contact with. Of what am I supposed to be doing? It's like, well, you got to find out.
Yeah, yeah. I have the way look, what you said is 100% accurate, because it would be stealing from somebody to tell them in any shape or form what it is that they have yet to understand about themselves, what they must go through, where they are headed if they remain as they are, or what might happen if they change. Because A, the answer is going to be incomplete, and B, more importantly, you're stealing from them what it is that they must themselves directly experience. Otherwise, it's useless. The world today is filled with a lot of nonsense in this spiritual world, where it's the drive-through spirituality. You get a happy meal if you put down your $50, and then you just have to eat what doesn't taste good, feel good after you eat it, and then realize that it's junk food and you have to get more of it to keep you going. So this is an important point for everyone to understand. You and I, if we can be as present as we can possibly be in the moment of that awareness, are being shown everything that we need to see and that we can see about ourselves in that moment. And apart from that revelation, the rest is a fool's game, because my being is being given to me, and I have a relationship with the giver and the nature required to be changed in that relationship. And if I'm not right there at the center of that cross, at the center of that horizontal and perpendicular plane, if I'm not right in the center of it, I'm missing the point. I'm also losing the opportunity to continue the ascension that all of us are intended to make in this life, to continue to be interesting. What does it profit a man to have gained the whole world and to have lost his soul? The
Yeah.
Aramaic meaning of the word profit is to ascend. So what does it mean if I'm not ascending? What have I gained if I'm not rising in my understanding, compassion, and ability to share?
Hmm.
So
One of the interesting things I heard about the Middle Ages, they had a practice in the church for a while in Europe this may have been the Dark Ages going to the Middle Ages, where they held the belief that when you were baptized, that washed away all your sins.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so noblemen who knew that they're going to have a rough life, they put off their baptism until their deathbed. And you just had to be careful that you got that baptism squeezed in before you kicked off. Otherwise, you'd be unshriven and wouldn't go to heaven at all. But, sort of that view that, well, I can put off my spiritual growth my whole life. I can be an SOB. And then suddenly one day, okay, I guess I'll get on board. I'll get with the program.
Yeah,
It just doesn't work very well.
No, and much to the fault of mechanical religion, having taken what was sown into the world as something pure and true, and turning it into something that was self-serving, monetizing, and ultimately misery creating for humanity, and the idea that the purpose of our life somehow or other is to be seen by others and in our own eyes as something great. And there's no worse curse on this planet than trying to prove to yourself that you are as you imagine yourself to be. That is purgatory. That is hell itself, actually, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, when I talk to people about, the healing journey and being a healer, I said, it's a great thing. I said, from my point of view, it's one of the most selfish things you can do, because when you realize your connectedness to other people, when you make them feel better, you automatically feel better because you're connected to them. And so I always joke about, this is a selfish thing to do, is the healing process and helping others heal or do better in their lives. And I get very disappointed with, selfish people or narcissistic people or others who are very self-centered.
There is no separate self, and that's something that just takes really, 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 really a long time to understand. It's not my pain, it's not Dave's pain, it's our pain, and that we share something far more deep than we're willing to see, because none of us want to understand the nature of this unhappiness, the nature of this pain. We looked at the source of conflict as something outside of ourselves in an unwanted condition. And conditions are reflections of consciousness, so that as I experience myself as the reflection of that condition, then I'm not trying to change the condition anymore. I'm not trying to control people, not even trying to control Guy anymore. I understand that if real change is going to take place, it's going to have to start in the center of this man, this being, and no place else. And if I'm not working there, and I can only work there in the moment, then I'm not working at all, and I'm headed towards another unwanted set of circumstances that I'll probably go through the same iteration again with.
Well, that goes back to your Sisyphus, how many people, keep pushing that rock up the hill every day?
Well, we just thank God that the powers that be have instilled in this soul, deeply as it may be hidden, the capacity to eventually realize that to listen to pain or fear tell me what to do to be free of pain and fear is like asking a hungry tiger to deliver me back into the town when I got lost in the jungle. That nature is not interested in freedom. It is interested in experiencing the freedom it imagines and promises. And to see through the imagination and the sense of self promised, if I'll just take this, do it again, refigure it, do it again. If I just do it enough times, which is, of course, the definition of insanity, according to Einstein, right? Do the same thing 1,000 times, it's going to change. No, it's not. And one day I actually have to realize I of myself can do nothing. That's right out of Scripture, by the way. Christ himself said, of myself I can do nothing. Well, it's the Father that doeth the works. But we get all this screwed up inside of our mind that then wants to put something outside of us doing this work for us. And it doesn't work like that. It's all about this great journey back home, back to what I am, when I'm being given what I'm given, And what am I willing to do with those impressions and influences? And if I can be present, something good will be made, something new will be born. And if I'm not present, by God, I'm headed into another round of punishment in the great machine of this consciousness that can't wait to recreate itself over and over again.
Well, it's kind of like when I talk to people about prayers, and I say, well, a lot of people grow up with the prayers of, please God, do this for me. Please God, take care of this. Please God, fix this.
Right.
And I said, much better approach to a prayer is, I know there's a lesson here for me. Please help me learn this lesson as soon as possible so I can move forward.
Perfect.
And I think that's the bigger picture here.
Yeah, I have a saying for that. It's sweet and short. When the unwanted moment comes, thank you. I didn't know that about myself.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's so many people out there who are so challenged, and they're always looking externally for what is going on. Why is my life like this? And I love the people. I'm sure you get some of them too, where man, they're right on the edge of big things happening spiritually. It's what we call the people, their hair's on fire and they're looking for a pond to jump in. And they're not letting anything get in the way of their spiritual understanding and progress. And it's like, wow, this is somebody so great to work with, because they are ready to move. And I'll do the best I can to help them understand and move, and or help them to understand it themselves as they dig into it.
Yeah, no, it's rare as hen's teeth, as they say. But when you have the opportunity to meet or speak with a kindred soul, and they have that spark, getting all that dry kindling ready to turn into a lamp that doesn't go under a bushel, in that moment, then it's rewarding. Now, maybe rewarding isn't the right word. You know what? It's affirming. It helps you understand to some extent that you are not the only one who sees what almost no one else seems to recognize, or that doesn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
And that that anybody who's, as you put it, hair is on fire, their hair's on fire because they've got their hands burned so many times in this world that they finally pulled their hands back to their heart, and then the hair catches on fire.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a short break here for messages from Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. We'll be right back with our guest, Guy Finley.
Hi, I'm Violet Rain, Master and Teacher of Sacred Priesthood in the Mystery Schools here at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. This is a program that I offer about once a year. We take on students to start this program. It's an 18-month program, which means there are 13 classes. We teach a class once a month, and we skip months with holidays. And on this path, men and women can come together to become sacred priests and sacred priestesses of the Order of Melchizedek. The Order of Melchizedek is the oldest sacred priesthood on this planet. It was mentioned in the Bible and still exists today. This is about walking a path of beauty, sacredness, and service. It's about learning how to be a magical creator of your own life and using the universal mysteries to create whatever type of life that you're looking for. This path is filled with magic, about learning prosperity, about creating, about sacred geometry, about Kabbalah, about learning about the ascended masters, the archangels, the elementals, including dragons and fairies and unicorns and the mermaids. It brings all that universal wisdom together to create a way for everyone to have that joyful and abundant life that they've always wanted. I hope that you will check out our website under classes and look for Mystery School or look for Sacred Priesthood and find out more about these classes and what we have to offer. I look forward to seeing you in class, and I hope to see you really soon at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts.
Well, welcome back to our show with Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, and our guest is Guy Finley, and he has so much information to share, and we're going to continue. So something I want to talk to you about, because I saw some mention of it in your materials, and that's the concept of awakening. And I'm seeing so many people talk about that in so many different ways. I'd love to hear your views on it.
You know that in the old Hermetic teachings, the idea of as above, so below, as within, so without. And I think there's so much to be gained from that idea, that principle. I have my own saying, which is that in the common is hidden the celestial hides in the common, so that so many of the important lessons in my own life have come to me through my relationship with nature. I'm a bit of a nature buff. I like to spend time with the animals here on this little mountain where I live in Southern Oregon, where my foundation is. I've basically hand raised 7 generations of deer. At any point that I look out, there's turkeys, rabbits, squirrels, deer. I mean, it's like a wildlife kingdom out here. And I watch and learn, because again, in the common is the celestial. So now, returning to your question about awakening, all of us have bad dreams. When do I awaken? I'm talking now, we're just talking in levels and scale here. If I'm having a bad dream, when do I wake up from that bad dream? When do I wake up from that bad dream? And the answer is when it reaches a certain pitch. The nervous system, the body, whatever it is, it can only bear so much of that tension. And then that ultimate moment where the resistance is at a maximum, there's a release. And thank God, you wake up from a nightmare and you go, oh man, I'm so glad I woke up from that. I thought my wife died, or whatever it is that constitutes a nightmare for you. A lot of people have bad dreams where stuff chases them. And, that's all levels and scale, but we all have the things where, without understanding it, these are all reflections of attachments and dependencies that we don't know dwell in a consciousness that's been conditioned, not just in the short time I've been alive, but in the consciousness itself. All of this is contained in it and contaminated by it, because it is the continuation of a mistaken mindset that I'm here to serve myself on this planet and myself only. So I wake up from the bad dream when I can't bear to be asleep anymore. Right? It's very much the same thing. We wake up in moments where, and I have to go slow now, where at a certain point, I've lost my temper with a person so many times. And at the moment where I lose the temper, I'm sound asleep in myself. I don't know they're in pain. I don't know I'm in pain. I want to get rid of the pain, so I blame the other person for my pain, and we fight. Well, one day I'm right there at that same point, and I realize, by the grace of God, I have felt this anger a gazillion times. And a gazillion times I have loosed it on the world. And if not directly at someone, then it'll be subverted into something, an ambition. Most really ambitious people are fearful, angry people, because underneath the ambition is this drive to prove to themselves that they are someone special and unique. And I don't care what you do in this world. And the suicides among celebrities validates it. You will never prove to yourself the way you want to validate yourself that you are someone special. You are someone special, but not in the way you imagine it. And it's when that dream reaches that pitch that you actually have a moment where you realize, I need to wake up now. I cannot continue this line of thought. I cannot run with this wave of emotion. It is destructive to me and everyone else. And then a man or a woman begins to do the work of awakening. Now, I know you're going to like this, Dave. Do you know the original meaning of the word patience? My socks fell off of me a long time ago.
No, please tell me.
The original meaning of the word patience is to suffer yourself.
Okay.
We don't have any idea how to do that. I suffer idiots. I suffer the government. I suffer the medical association. I suffer traffic. I suffer everything. But the last thing I suffer is the me that has a dream about how you should be. That's the last thing I suffer. The last thing I suffer is my anger and sense of betrayal because the world isn't turning the way I want it to turn. So instead of suffering this consciousness that is actually complicit in the condition it despises, instead of suffering that consciousness, I spend my life deepening, going deeper into a dream, believing that if I just go back and try to resurrect all the characters in that dream, I'm going to be a realized human being. No, realization is inseparable from awakening to a consciousness that's asleep. That's what awakening is. And it's not a joyride, I would add. It's not all autograph and sunglasses. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Well, these things are a challenge when people make spiritual progress, and when they get these, as you say, the big realizations of what is their true nature.
Right.
What are they an extension of in terms of consciousness in all directions, whether from the creator or whether their consciousness extends into others or into even the consciousness of the planet, all these things. Where do they fit? And they're part of this path is, gee, I'm not an encapsulated thing.
Right.
I extend out and I touch many in many ways that I can only begin to imagine.
Right. That's right. And it does it's very much connected, to try to put a little point on it. We're born into a world, and it's kind of like the prodigal son. The prodigal son, if for those who know Christian scripture, he goes out on this journey.
Mm-hmm.
He leaves his father's house, seeking to make of himself something more than he felt he would ever be living with his father. And the story goes, at a certain point, he couldn't even find enough food. He was feeding pigs the food that he himself couldn't have. He could find no nourishment. He could find no way to fulfill his purpose in the world. Purpose as imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is very germane to the whole topic of what's our life about, because at some point a person realizes, I have been sown into a world, into a body. I have been brought into an order of consciousness that already believes it knows everything that needs to be done to complete itself.
Mm-hmm.
And you follow hook, line, and sinker, because mom and dad said you should be more successful than I was. And you look at people who have things and seem to be happy, and you think, well, if I had that, I'd be happy. And you look at all these examples of what basically is nothing but imitation. And you realize that you have an imitative life as long as you are trying to make from your life what this world promises you will experience. Your purpose is to be someone in this world. That is not your purpose. That's what the world sells you.
Mm-hmm.
The unhappiness is realizing that purpose was doomed at the outset, and now I must discover for myself the purpose of my existence, because the world doesn't know it. Mm-hmm. Then the journey begins in earnest of looking for something that isn't in some strange compliance with worldly contentment, but understanding, is there another order of myself that can be content with another order of itself? Then we have the beginning of awakening, and the journey starts.
That makes me want to ask you another question.
Sure.
I have this difficulty or observation when sometimes I work at these metaphysical fairs, and I see a lot of people, and a question that I used to ask and I quit asking because I'd get deer in the headlights is, okay, you come with all these issues, tell me, what would make you happy? Very few people can answer that. They can't come up with an answer.
Right.
And you look around you, and you see so many people are ready to go on online and rant and rave about this and that and fuss and fume, and then you say, okay, I'll tap my magic wand, I'll fix that issue. Now, are you happy? Well, no, because they're going to jump on the next one that they can rant and rave about.
Exactly.
They don't know what makes them happy.
Exactly. Because I hope we're not jumping into waters that are too deep here.
No, please go for it.
To be asleep means to believe that every thought, every emotion that captures my momentary identity is the same as having an identity of my own. And we don't, as long as we remain asleep, have an identity of our own. We have an almost endless string, like some kind of dark pearl on a chain, an endless string of one identity after another, so that I live in the service of one identity. For example, me personally, I believe that if I could become a recognized, successful songwriter, composer, singer, I would be happy.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that my liberation, my freedom would be found through that, because then I'd be able to get on to doing the other things that wait to be done after I do that. So there I am. I have almost everything that a person could imagine, and I am not happy. Why? Because the things I imagined would free me turned out to be actually a prison. Because now I have to support this house. I have to keep the hay in the bins for the horses. I've got to do the upkeep. I've got to live the style. I have to live the life I've imagined for myself, thinking that the life I imagined would free me, and it didn't free me. Mm-hmm. It made me a captive of an order of consciousness that imagined what freedom was, and I followed it lock, stock, and barrel, and get to the point where that identity is played out. Now, who am I going to be? Mm-hmm. And for lots of people, it's, I'm going to take my own life. Yeah. I'm going to start doing drugs and alcohol. I'm going to become a political activist. I'm going to find some new identity that will give me a sense of fulfillment in its promise that down the way, I'll finally be complete as a human being. And it's all a fool's errand, but we don't know it is. There's no judgment in it. It's just a fact. I am not who I think I am in any given moment, let alone the body of thought that has now sent me out pursuing what it promises is going to make me a perfect human being. It's all a dream. We must wake up. That's the real work. And in the end, that's the only work, is the continual awakening to the moment where something in me wants to be identified with whatever it is that's going on. For instance, I'm watching myself talk to you. If I'm not watching myself talk to you, then who's talking? There's just a body spewing out ideas. But if I'm present to myself, then I can't be deceived into believing that these thoughts or feelings are my own. I'm an instrument, just as Dave is an instrument. We are all instruments, sections on a bridge of being. And our task is to play the part of that instrument on that bridge, and to know the whole of the bridge and all of the music, to use that metaphor, being played. If I'm not doing that, I'm in a dream. And eventually I have to wake up, because by the grace of God, I call life a giant cosmic swizzle stick. Something is always stirring up the matter inside of Guy for the purpose of revelation, not to develop resistance.
Mm-hmm. I grew up, and I may be just a little bit younger than you. I don't know. You certainly look youthful, but
I'm in my 70s.
Okay, I'm in my mid 60s, and in the 1960s, my dad had gone from being an engineer into the priesthood. He became an Episcopal priest, and so therefore my parents were wrapped up into the social scene from the church.
Right.
And I remember as a kid walking through when they would have a late afternoon, early evening cocktail party, invite everybody over, and they'd have a bar and they'd have cigarettes in all the little dishes with the ashtray. So it was quite smoky and unpleasant for me as a kid. And I'd occasionally have to walk through, although I try to avoid it. And, to have all these people who were slightly schnockered and self-anesthetized and telling jokes that by the light of day were just stupid, but they all laughed uproariously because that was the socially polite thing to do and all that. It just left an indelible mark on me that, man, how many of these people are unhappy? And being in a minister's family, I'd hear the discussions about all the goings on with these people, and the infidelities, the diet drugs were popular for women to get off on, and to self-medicate and things like that. Alcoholics. It's just like it just really struck me as what a vacuous life. They were not on the path to happiness. They were going through the motions, frankly.
That's it. That's 100% it. And one day a person realizes, like if going through the motion brought about contentment and intelligence, then my milkshake blender would be awakened,
I love it.
And that's what it is, sensation, but no substance.
Yeah.
And one day, God willing, the soul, that which is intended to outgrow and actually be reborn, realizes it needs real substance. It needs nourishment. And all that I have been feeding myself by the choices of a consciousness that tells me that's what's going to satisfy me, it's not doing it. Then we understand the real meaning of the word fasting, by the way. We fast not just from the body, but from the appetite of the mind that wants what it wants when it wants it, so that everything is intended to serve as a stirring to wake us up. But as you know, leave me be. I'm having a good dream, merrily down the stream, and hopefully I'll wake up before I go over the falls, but most don't.
Absolutely. Well, tell us more about your program out there in Oregon. So you have a center, and you give lectures a couple times a week?
I do, Dave. Thank you for asking. Yeah, we have a beautiful center in Merlin, Oregon, just outside of Grants Pass, about 60 miles north of the California border. And it's on 15 acres of beautiful old growth sugar pine. There's a main building and an annex. And I speak 2 or 3 times a week live at the foundation. We have lunches and discussions. But I also, back when COVID started, realized I'm going to have to make a shift. So I took all my talks online.
Okay.
So I speak online for free, nothing to join, twice a week, Wednesday nights and Sunday mornings. And you can find out about that just at my website, guyfinley.org, or go to guyfinley.org/classes. And you can sign up. You get a notification about the talk. That's it. We appreciate donations, but nothing's requested. And it's the same thing in here in Oregon where I talk, Dave. We've had a $3 donation recommended at the door for 30 years. What I was given freely, and what I want to give is also given freely. So, and all the books, audio programs, everything, so unbelievably dirt cheap. I'm my own client, my own, what do I call them? The people that help me, they yell at me. And lastly, once a quarter, 4 times a year, we have a special gathering at the foundation. For instance, in June, over the solstice time, we are having a special gathering of people Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll talk Friday night. There'll be a lunch, a discussion, a webcast Saturday, and then on Sunday, another whole talk. So it's a whole weekend, and people are invited to come and take part, share in the fellowship, meet their fellows, friends and students along the way. And I don't know, I think the whole thing, the whole weekend is $49, I think. Wow. I know it's not more than that. And if you can't afford it, you can find out about scholarships. I want people to have the material they need so they can we can all do the work we need to do. And one last thing, and I am apparently ubiquitous. I have my own YouTube channel. I have kids that do all this, thank God,
Yes.
that help me. Because I could, if it was just up to me, I'd be sitting here on a mountain in Oregon talking to the deer. But if you search my name, Guy Finley, in Google, you'll see I'm every place, all over the place.
Well, I noticed that you have an offer on your website that if you join your newsletter list, you get a free ebook of the Freedom from the Ties That Bind. So
Yes, thank you for remembering that for me. Yes, a free book, one of my better books, downloaded. And again, you're not joining anything. To get the book, you give us your email. We send you a weekly insight, a meditation, and that's it. What you want to do is up to you. We're just opening the door. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Well, very good. Well, I want to thank you for being on the show today. This has been very rewarding to speak to you. I love speaking to like-minded people, and you've done such great things for people and really given of yourself. So thank you.
David, mutual thanks. We've never met, but we probably closer than I am with one of my brothers. So that's the way it runs. You keep up your good work, and if you ever get out this way, give a shout.
Absolutely.
Let Babs know, and we'll get something worked out. You'll be a guest here at the foundation.
I'd love to. Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome, Dave.
Well, thank you to all listeners for joining us today. Please stay tuned for several messages from some of our other practitioners, and it's quite rewarding. We'll be back in several weeks. Take care.
Hi, my name is Christina Morris. I am the founder and president of Balance and Bliss Energy Healing. I'm a medical intuitive and high vibrational healer. I work with the energy fields. My scope of practice is energy medicine. Anything above and beyond that, for outside care, we'll need to refer you out there. But I do use crystals and aromatherapy in my healings. And I help manage pain. We help move some of the pain out of the body that might be coming from stagnant energy within the field, as well as, we get to the root of the problem with, any emotional trauma and find out what's going on that could be causing more stagnant energy to be left in your aura, which in turn can cause illness and pain and a lot of other issues that we tend to see throughout our day-to-day lives. And then I can be reached by appointment. You can make appointments anytime, any day of the week. I do work Monday through Friday in the evenings from about 5:30 to 8:30. Your first session can be about an hour and a half because we get to know one another. We kind of go through what's going on. And then any session thereafter would run about 50 minutes to an hour. And I can be reached through my website at balanceandblissenergyhealing.com. My email is balanceandblissenergyhealing@gmail.com. And I can also be reached via phone or text at 720-696-0286. And I look forward to any, potential clients. If you have any referrals or if you are in need of any of my services, I look forward to working with you.
Hi, my name is Heather McCormick-Ramey, and I'm a medium and energy healer. I love helping people connect deeply with spiritual messages, with ancestors, and all of that amazing support that is surrounding them. Now, Spirit started working with me at a very young age, and as I created more and more space for those messages to come through, it's been a really life-changing experience. And this is what I offer to my clients. So if you're interested in mediumship, look to book at Discover Your Spiritual Gifts. I'm there as a reader, and I also have practitioner hours as an energy healer. With the energy healing, I help my clients bust through limiting beliefs and really live their soul-aligned life. So please reach out to Discover Your Spiritual Gifts if you're interested in learning more and connecting deeply with your soul's purpose and spirit. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello, my name is Trina Schneider, and I am a spirit medium and intuitive reader. I also offer angelic Reiki and crystal healing. I was born an empath and have seen and heard spirits since I was a little girl. For many years, I ignored my gifts, but knew I was meant to be a healer. I started my journey doing private yoga sessions, and yoga helped me to reconnect with my mind, body, and spirit. I was then led to an intuitive mentor and took her classes to find out who I was and what my spiritual path should be, never thinking it would lead to a complete career change after being a hairstylist for 30 years. My spiritual path is a never-ending journey of healing myself and helping others. I consider my readings to be sacred and use prayer, meditation, and call upon my ancient Puebloan ancestors, angels, and other guides. In my readings, I view your energy through a rose. I connect you to your relevant past lives, bring in messages from your spirit guides, angels, and ancestors. I read the layers of your aura through your chakras to uncover blocks, bring in clarity, guidance, and direction for your life path. I do in-person readings that discover your spiritual gifts and remote readings over Zoom. To book your readings with me, please call or text me at 720-334-7754 or contact the center. I look forward to meeting you real soon.
Discover connection, awaken sacredness, become empowered. Join us for our show on Blog Talk Radio.